Hey everybody, this is Rush Crossix again. We're going to be going over the difference between a Scram Disruptor and what a web does in combat. So, the first thing is we're going to start moving around a little bit. In this cormorant that I have, I just want you to know we have a prop mod. We have a micro warp drive prop mod, and my friend is going to be following me in his Loki. So, let's say that Loki is going to engage me. A few things that you're going to see first off. So go ahead, Loki, and lock me up. When I get locked up, or when I begin to get locked up, I will have a yellow, or in this case, it's going to be purple because we're in a fleet, but it would be yellow boxed. I would get yellow boxed, or based on the color. So I'm locked up. What that means is that I have been selected. That means at any point in time, he can put any kind of damage, any kind of damps on, anything he wants to do pretty much. Now we're going to show you the difference between a micro warp drive, and we're going to show you the difference between a afterburner, which I don't have an afterburner on here. But go ahead and hit me with the Scrambler. So when you get warp scrammed, that's going to pop up. It's going to tell you, hey, you are warp scrammed. Now the big difference between the disruptors and scramblers is when I try to use my micro warp drive, I can't do it. The reason why is scramblers will shut that off. If I had an afterburner, which does go a lot slower, a scrambler does not affect me. I can still use my afterburner. Go ahead and switch it to a disruptor. So what's going to happen is he's gonna click both. He's going to get rid of the scrambler, and now I'm disrupted. Now you see how also there's no beam coming at me anymore. That's a little bit of a different sign just for aesthetics reasons. But I can use a micro warp drive. Means I can still move as fast as I need to move, and that's pretty important, right? A lot of the fights you're going to be getting into in nullsec, the big fights I would say, typically they use disruptors, they don't use scramblers. We call it pointing. It's just you're pointed. A scrambler is like a heavy point, in essence, where, hey, you can't use the micro warp. If you don't have an afterburner, you're not moving. You're not getting away, right? Disruptors just to make sure you can't warp off, typically. And that's, again, for more bigger fights. Now, the cool thing is, even with a disruptor, let's say I want to orbit him at 10. We're going to just use this as an example. I'm going to get to maximum speed real quick, and then he's going to throw a web on me. So let me get to maximum speed first. I'm going to orbit him at 10. Disruptors can typically point out 20, 30, depends on what ship you're in and if there's any specific bonuses that you get from the ship. But go ahead and throw a web on me now. And I want you to pay attention to the speed. You see how it's going down now? And I'm getting significantly reduced in my speed. It was at 13. I'm at now about 6. This is very important. The reason why is now I'm pointed. He can still slow me down. I can still use my micro warp drive, but I can't go as fast. Webs will slow down the opponent or the person you're trying to hold in place. Now keep this in mind, and this is very important to remember. Never put your web first over your point, whether it's a scram or a disruptor. Why? Here's why. If they're aligning to leave, right? They're aligning to get out. You come in their space. They're like, oh God, I'm going to get hit. And you hit a web on them first, and then you try to put your point. There's a lot of times, and I've seen this, to where you will actually warp that person off. What I mean by that is a web will actually help them align faster. And once they're fully aligned, they take off. No question about it. They're going to leave. So if you try to put your web first and then you try to point, you're going to probably run into some problems. So always lead with the point. The point is the number one thing that you want to hold on to them. And you have warp core stabilizers that can be used. That then it comes down to how strong the disruptor or the scrambler is compared to how many warp core stabilizers they have in the low slots. That's a whole nother mess. We're not going to get into that now, but just understand there are remedies to getting pointed. In nullsec, another thing you're going to run into is bubbles, but we're going to get into that later. This is just a quick little class about getting pointed, webbed, scrammed, how it works. Thank you very much. Again, I'm Rush Crossix.